Yuyuhi Amamiya is a nerdy college student who is extremely antisocial and doesn't have any friends, much less a girlfriend. But one day, he meets a princess who offers him to become her knight with a goal to save the entire planet from destruction. But before any of this, it's just another day in Yuyuhi's life as he wakes up and is about to get ready for college when he realizes that a lizard is on his chest. He immediately becomes terrified and throws the lizard away, but it keeps on coming back. The worst part is that the lizard can also talk and tells him that he needs to save the world. The talking lizard is called Noi, and he explains to Yuyuhi that the world is about to be destroyed and to save it, he needs his help. Yuyuhi is too tired of his bull crap and throws the lizard away once again and leaves to head to college. However, on his way to college, he finds Noi on his shoulder once again, and this time, it's extremely persistent. Realizing that he can't get rid of this annoying lizard, he decides to accept his fate and arrives at the college. Now, it would have been extremely funny if people saw a goofy-looking lizard on his shoulders, but fortunately the lizard can only be seen by him. At the college, he meets Hisame, who is a professor there even though she isn't that much older than him. After greeting her and getting berated by her for not completing his assignments, he heads outside to get some fresh air. There, Noi tells him that he should look at his hands, where he finds a night ring on one of his fingers. Noi explains that the night ring is the proof that he was chosen, as it allows him to wield supernatural powers. Yuyuhi's power is to control small globs of telekinesis power, which he can control to do various things. He asks Noi whether he can use his powers to unalive anyone, to which Noi answers that he can. So Yuyuhi decides to test it out. The target in front of him is Hisame, who is just standing there casually. However, Yuyuhi's target is not to unalive her, but instead he just uses his powers to create a wind current which causes Hisame's skirt to fly up. Seeing that his powers work splendidly, he is excited but soon becomes normal once again. Later, he is returning back home when he suddenly feels a sharp pain in his chest. Just then, Noi warns him that one of their enemies is nearby, and soon enough Yuyuhi spots him. Noi calls these monsters golems, and normally the knights can easily defeat them. But since Yuyuhi has just gotten his powers this morning, he can't do anything but run away. Unfortunately, he is just a nerdy college student who has no athletic capabilities, so he soon gets tired and is unable to run anymore. Furthermore, his telekinesis glob is also useless against the golem since it's so weak. Just when Yuyuhi thought that his life was over, a bright and cheerful young girl appeared out of nowhere and saved his bum from dying. Noi recognizes the girl to be the princess and immediately starts asking her about her situation. The princess, whose name is Samadair, turns out to be Yuyuhi's neighbor, as she tells Noi that the spirit is sleeping inside her body. Just then, Hisame appears out of nowhere and suspects Yuyuhi for harassing her little sister. Yuyuhi is shocked to learn that Samadair is Hisame's little sister and wonders what mess he has gotten himself in. Samadair clears the confusion between them as Hisame leaves after glaring at Yuyuhi to remind him to control his inner thoughts. Meanwhile, Samadair takes Yuyuhi to the rooftop, where she stands at the edge and tells Yuyuhi that she needs him to save the world from getting destroyed. Yuyuhi still doesn't understand, so she points in the air, where Yuyuhi notices a giant hammer close to striking the earth. Samadair's goal is to stop that hammer because this planet belongs to her and only she can destroy it. For the first time in his life, Yuyuhi has felt so refreshed, so he swears his loyalty to Samadair, making a connection between them as he is now her knight. But just when he pledges his loyalty to her, he feels the thick chains that were placed on his back by his grandfather to be acting once again. The chains remind him that he shouldn't trust anyone and that he doesn't need any friends. This causes Yuyuhi to fall into a dilemma as he constantly tries to resist the chains placed on him by his grandfather. The following morning, Yuyuhi is woken up by Noi, who reminds him that they need to go out for a morning jog daily so that he can improve his pathetic stamina. At the park, he meets Samadair, who is more physically capable than he is. After exercising, Samadair invites him to her home where she offers him breakfast. While having breakfast, he starts feeling happy as this is the most fun that he ever had in his life. But just then, the weight of the chains sink in once again, reminding him that he will never be able to do anything. Later at night, after training his telekinesis for a little bit, he takes out a cup of ramen and starts eating it. Noi asks him if he has any wish that he wants to fulfill, but Yuyuhi doesn't answer, so Noi stops asking him. After eating dinner, he heads out to the balcony where he is looking at the hammer when he hears Samadair standing in the balcony as well. She grabs his hands and takes him to the rooftop as if she can fly. Samadair tells him that he shouldn't be surprised since he can fly too, but Yuyuhi reminds her that he can't, to which Samadair answers that he definitely will one day and he will fly higher than everyone. That's why she chose him, because he will be the one to take her to the hammer and there she will destroy it. The following morning, Yuyuhi is out there jogging once again when suddenly a golem appears and attacks him. Yuyuhi tries to run away, but he isn't able to, as behind him is the river. Fortunately for him, Samadair saves him for the second time, which causes him to feel inferior as he is supposed to protect her and not vice versa. In desperation, he tries to jump across the river using his telekinesis glob as footsteps, but he runs out in the middle and falls straight into the water. He gets a cold and falls ill, so Samadair comes to take care of him as she cheers him up. There, Yuyuhi tells her about how he once brought a friend back home, but his grandfather wasn't happy at all, so he tied him in chains and locked him in a room for 3 days. Samadair consoles him and tells him that he should go visit his grandfather to resolve his trauma once and for all. She asks him to not get worried as she will help him destroy all the chains that bound him. After Yuyuhi gets better, he visits his grandfather's house where currently his aunt is living besides him. After resting for a while, he heads to pray for his father, who was a detective and died while chasing a criminal. Meanwhile, his mother left him when he was just a child and he never heard from her ever again. After praying for his father, he heads into his grandfather's room to visit him, who seems sick, but he still gets out of bed and apologizes to Yuyuhi. He is extremely apologetic for always trying to trap Yuyuhi into his ideologies when he was just a child. He tells him that he has now learnt that maybe not all humans are the worst, especially ever since his aunt started living with him alongside the rest of her family. Yuyuhi, however, is extremely angry at him because his grandfather ruined his entire life, and now he thinks that he can just erase all that pain with just a few words. Unable to control his tears, he runs out of the room and heads out into the woods to clear his mind. But there, he is ambushed by a golem who is even stronger than the last one that attacked him. Yuyuhi can only run to save himself, as this time no Samadair is here to rescue him. But after running for a while, he gets exhausted and immediately faints due to the injury on his head. Inside his dream, he meets Samadair, who seems a little bit different than the real one, but she gives him motivation by saying that she will reward him with a kiss if he can defeat that golem. Being a single perverted male, Yuyuhi becomes fired up and immediately thinks of a plan to defeat the golem. He soon finds the solution and jumps straight down the hill, but slows down his descent by using his telekinesis. The golem, on the other hand, isn't able to survive the fall and shatters. Just after that, Yuyuhi receives a call from his cousin, who tells him that their grandfather is in extremely bad condition. Yuyuhi remembers that he still has his wish remaining, so he uses that to heal his grandfather. This way he is able to shatter the chains on his body and becomes free. Yuyuhi heads back to his home where he resumes his normal life. While doing his usual practice session with Samadair, he stumbles into a strange person who turns out to be another knight just like Yuyuhi. While Yuyuhi is the lizard knight, this person named Henjetsu is a dog knight. Henjetsu's goal is to test Samadair's strength, and after fighting her, he realizes that she is not that bad. Although Henjetsu is still much more proficient than her and is able to dodge all of her attacks. After a while, he and his dog, Ludo, leave and Yuyuhi also heads back home. At night, he gets a weird dream where he meets Samadair once again, but this time she rewards him with a kiss for his victory against the golem. The following morning, both Yuyuhi and Samadair blushes after seeing each other as they are reminded of the dream. But they keep their eyes off and arrive at the park where they meet Henjetsu once again, who offers to spar with Samadair. After they are finished sparring, Henjetsu begs Samadair to give him some shoujo manga because he has really gotten into them. Samadair takes him home where he meets Hisama for the first time and immediately falls in love with her. Yuyuhi should learn from him that older women are always better. After having dinner with them, Yuyuhi is heading back home when he is ambushed by another golem, but this time there is no hill for him to use his previous strategy. Fortunately, Henjetsu arrives and saves him from the golem. Yuyuhi is surprised to see Henjetsu handle the golem so easily and wonders if Henjetsu is a better choice for Samadair to conquer the planet. From this point forward, Henjetsu keeps following him since he wants to get close to Hisama. He even finds him at his college, where Yuyuhi learns from Hisama that Henjetsu has a younger brother named Mikazuki who is also a student at his college but hasn't come to college in a long time. Later, Yuyuhi finds that Henjetsu has broken into his house and is watching anime there as if he lives there. After watching anime and talking about the night powers, they head to Samadair's house to have dinner, and there they meet Samadair's father, who is apparently an author. They also learn that Hisama hates him because he is a deadbeat father who rarely comes home. Japanese fathers are never beating the allegations of ever being home, or at least that's what Hisama thinks of him to be, but in reality, he is just a busy dad who tries to make his children as happy as he can. The only reason he returned back home was because of Samadair's birthday, and he wanted to celebrate it with his children back at home. To make the perfect surprise birthday for Samadair, Hisama has Yuyuhi take Samadair out for the entire day and let her roam around. In the meantime, they can prepare everything for her birthday. While Yuyuhi and Samadare are having lunch, Samadare leaves for a toilet break, and that's where her dad comes and starts talking to Yuyuhi if he likes her. After getting all of his details, he tells her that he better take care of his daughter in the future or he will cut his meat off. Later in the evening, Yuyuhi and Samadare return home where Hisama and her father had arranged a surprise birthday party for her. Hangetsu is also there to help them, and they all have a great time together. After the party, Samadare and Yuyuhi are having a conversation at the rooftop where Samadare mentions that she used to be extremely sick and she was only able to live and get stronger due to the spirit named Anima inside her body. She knows that after this war is over, she will die, so she asks Yuyuhi if he is willing to die with her. Yuyuhi, who has no one but Samadare left in his heart, immediately accepts her request and promises to die together with her. This also causes Yuyuhi to become more serious about getting stronger, so he requests Hangetsu to teach him. There Hangetsu tells him his backstory and how his father always trained him to be a superhero. Unfortunately, unlike superheroes, he was unable to fly. Hangetsu also mentions that his will to become a hero died after his pet dog named Saw died to protect his little brother instead of him, who just froze there. But Hangetsu believes in Yuyuhi that he will become a hero because only he has the ability to fly. Just when they are about to start training, they sense a golem waiting to ambush them. They decide to chase after the golem, but the golem is extremely powerful and fast that even Hangetsu isn't able to follow its movement. Yuyuhi, who is not a fighter, becomes a deadweight in the fight, which causes him to become an easy target. The golem realizes this and attacks him, but Hangetsu pushes him aside and uses his body to block the blow instead. The blow ruptures all of his organs, and as he is on his last breath, Hangetsu tells his wish to Ludo, who fills it right away as Hangetsu dies. After fulfilling his wish, Ludo disappears as well, leaving behind everything in Yuyuhi's hands. Just then an angry Samadare arrives and destroys the golem in a single blow, but unfortunately it's too late as Hangetsu is no more. Yuyuhi is traumatized by Hangetsu's death and is unable to even cry. This makes Hisama feel bad for him, so she hugs him and tells him that he can cry if he wants to. She also admits that she probably loved Hangetsu, although it's unfortunate that he isn't alive anymore. Later, Yuyuhi stumbles into Hangetsu's little brother, Mikazuki, and his spirit animal, Mu, which is a crow. Mikazuki wants to fight Yuyuhi when he learns that Hangetsu died while trying to protect Yuyuhi. His reason to fight him isn't because he is sad that Hangetsu is dead, but that he just wants to surpass his brother who gave his future for Yuyuhi. The fight ends when Samadare kicks Mikazuki away, who instantly falls in love with her. But before anything can happen, another animal knight approaches them and introduces himself to be Suikairu, the horse knight. He also tells them that he has met a few other animal knights and he hopes that they can all unite to save the earth. However, Mikazuki is etching for fight, so he also challenges Suikairu, who easily defeats him. But Mikazuki tells him that he won't give up this easily and promises to come back later on. Later, Yuyuhi meets the Snake Knight as well, who is a girl named Yaoi. The snake spirit calls herself She, and surprisingly Noi remembers her. He tells Yuyuhi that she and the previous Snake Knight died while protecting him and his previous knight. Later, the group is heading out to hunt a few more golems, but this time the golem appears to be much stronger than what Yaoi can handle, which causes Noi to become afraid that he might see another Snake Knight die because of him once again. So he begs Yuyuhi to get out of his traumatized state and help Yaoi. Yuyuhi finally gains enough courage to stand up as he chases after the golem. In that moment in time, Yuyuhi realizes that he can use all of Hangetsu's techniques, which allows him to defeat the golem. But just before he can shatter the golem into pieces, another golem appears and eats the previous one to become even bigger. The seven-eyed golem is extremely strong and far above Yuyuhi's playfield, so he can only back away while trying to keep Yaoi from all the harm. Fortunately, Samadare arrives in time and kicks the golem so far away that they can't even see where it went. After the fight is over, the tears that Yuyuhi has been holding back all this time finally starts to pour out, and he realizes that Hangetsu was indeed a dead friend of his, even though they only met each other for such a short period of time. Yuyuhi realizes that Hangetsu's final wish was for him to gain his skills, so that he can grow stronger and become the hero that he wasn't able to become. But this is what pisses off Mikazuki, who once again tries to fight Yuyuhi, but this time Yuyuhi is able to hold his own against him. But the longer their fight goes on, Yuyuhi realizes that even though his mind remembers all of Hangetsu's techniques, his body isn't used to performing them, which is also why he isn't able to do anything against Mikazuki. After they are done fighting, they are about to head back home when they stumble into the seven-eyed golem that Samadare kicked away yesterday. However, the golem is still alive, and moreover it becomes a gateway for the mage to show up, who is the greatest enemy of the princess and her knights. This causes everyone to panic, so they start gathering all the knights as quickly as possible, and soon enough they gather all of them. Aside from the dog knight Henjetsu, who died protecting Yuyuhi, the swordfish knight also died while trying to protect his students. The remaining 10 knights that are left are the lizard knight Yuyuhi, who is our protagonist, the crow knight Mikazuki, who is the younger of Henjetsu, the cat knight Hayu, a fatty nerd who wants to attain all knowledge in the world, the horse knight Suikairu, who used to be a detective, the snake knight Yaoi, a girl who loves to cosplay, the tortoise knight Yukamachi, and the rooster knight Subaru, who was the disciple of the fallen swordfish knight, the mantis knight Hanako, who is terrible at showing her emotions, the mouse knight Teru, who loves to cook, and finally the owl knight Teiyu, an introverted middle schooler. Samadair summons all of them and gives a grand speech on how they will defeat the mage Animus and protect Earth from the biscuit hammer. After the meeting, everyone goes their own ways. Yaoi also heads back to her own house where she cosplays into an anime character and has Shi take pictures of her. There she also mentions how she first met Shi and how her wish was to make sure that her family and parents are smiling when they die. It was a pretty weird request, but Shi accepted it, and Yaoi made the bond with Shi and became the Snake Knight. Later, Samadair and Yuyuhi once again stumble into Suikairu, who offers to take them for lunch. At lunch, he tells them about his family and how he has a wife and a son. He also tells them that he used to be a detective, but when he learned that the chief of his company does not even take the law enforcement seriously, he decided to leave the job. There he met Dance, his horse spirit, who contracted him, and he became the Horse Knight. After having lunch, they all go back to their own places. Later at night, Yuyuhi once again finds himself in a dream with Samadair. He asks her why he is the only knight who appears in the dream. Samadair answers that it's because only those who are invited by the anima can appear in the dream. Meanwhile, the cat knight, Hayu, also finds himself in a dream, but the summoner this time is Animus. Animus wants Hayu to join his ranks instead, as their goals are aligned. He also mentions to Hayu that he knows that the wish he wished was to gain the Akashic records. Hayu is surprised, but he soon calms down and tells him that he did wish for it, but his cat spirit Ku told him that it was an impossible wish because that would make him stronger than all the beings. Hayu asks Animus if Animus is his real name, to which Animus answers that it is, or at least it is in his age and era. Back in reality, Hayu is curious about Animus' words and wonders if he is from the future or the past. But while he is wondering, he is approached by Animus in real life, but Animus isn't able to have a chance at communicating with him because Subaru and Yukamachi arrive and prepare to slay Animus right here on the spot. But Animus runs away after he gets his answer from the two of them that their teacher said they were humans first. Later at night, Hayu is once again summoned by Animus, but this time he confirms that he is from the future, and that he is here in the past where all realities converge to balance the creation and destruction. He calls himself the god of destruction, but since his vessel is that of a human, he unfortunately has a desire, and that's to know everything in the world. Unfortunately, his enemies are the knights who have the potential to become as strong as him, so he must eliminate them first. That's why he wants to recruit Hayu, but Hayu tells him to go and frick himself, as there is no way he will join him. Saying this, he shows Animus the wish he got from the Ku, which is his upgrade to his holding field, now known as the creation field. His creation field allows him to create golems, which surprises Animus, who never thought a knight would think of that. But unfortunately, Animus already had a backup plan, and that was the owl knight Teiyu. Teiyu uses his chaos field to destroy the golem, as Animus tells him that Teiyu is not just an animal knight but also his own knight as well. But Teiyu asks him to not get too free since he doesn't like any of them. He considers both Hayu and Animus to be monsters because no sane human would think like them. Back in the real world, Hayu is excited as he assures himself that if becoming a monster is necessary to protect this earth, then he will gladly become one. Meanwhile, Yuyuhi is digging some pits to make fall traps for the golems when he bumps into a hidden box which has his name written over it. After opening the box, he finds that it's from the Swordfish Knight, Inachika, who also used to be the master of Yukamachi and Subaru. Inside the box is a book about Inachika's personal life, as he explains how he was born in the feudal Japan era around 500 years ago. When he was just 4, he was swept away by the sea and was rescued by a hermit who taught him the way of life. When he grew older, he achieved enlightenment and was able to foresee the future and use many other strange abilities. It was like he had become a god. Throughout the 500 years, he took on many students, but he outlived all of them. But with passing time, he started to realize that his powers were diminishing, and soon the time came for his death. So before that, he took on 2 of his last apprentices, and they were the 2 girls, Yukamachi and Subaru. He taught them everything that he knew, and just 1 month later, his time for death arrived. He fought against a golem bravely and taught his students that living doesn't matter if they reject their humanity, so before everything they should remember that they are humans first. Both the girls are grieved by his death, so in anger and desperation, they are able to push out power far greater than their current limit and one-shots the golem. After saying his goodbyes to his students, he breathes his last breath and leaves last hope to Yuyuhi, whom he foresaw as the most important person in the future. After finishing the book, Yuyuhi exhales deeply as that was a lot of information to digest. This also puts a great responsibility onto his shoulder as now he carries the hopes of not just Samadare, but also Hangetsu's and Inichika's as well. With such responsibility, Yuyuhi becomes even more serious as he starts to practice even harder with all the other animal knights. One day they are practicing when Mikazuki suggests that they should go on a field trip to the ocean as having some fun while training is the best way to progress. However, his true intentions are to just see some chicks in bikinis. Yuyuhi and the other knights have no problem with it and Samadare also agrees to do it. So they all head out to the beach to enjoy some quality time together. The group has a great time together at the beach. During the day, they swim in the ocean and eat cold watermelon, but later at night, they drink and play games while trying to outdrink each other. Yuyuhi is also having a great time, and after playing with the other boys for a while, he leaves the inn and heads out to the beach to have a walk beside the ocean, but there he finds Samadare, who is walking on the water as if she is Jesus. Yuyuhi is surprised, so she explains that this is just one of the powers that she discovered randomly when going through different things. They sit at the stairs and talk about different things and eventually go back to talking about how with these powers, she will have an easier time destroying the earth in the future. Yayoi, who happens to be walking by, overhears them and can't help but be shocked. She wonders if telling others is a good idea, but when she reminds her that this might cause Samadare to eliminate her, she decides to forget that it happened and decides not to tell anyone. The following day, the group senses a golem's killing intent, so they head out after it to defeat it and also hone their skills in the midst of it. But after they arrive there, they find that it's another seven-eyed golem. Fortunately, the group has the help of Samadare, but before Samadare can take any action, she and Yuyuhi are taken away by Animus, who appears out of nowhere and teleports them far away. The group is now on their own against the seven-eyed golem, but fortunately, this golem has eaten the golem created by Hayu, so they are able to find a weakness and kill it using their combined techniques. In the meantime, Animus reveals that Anima is his twin sister and all the powers that she has comes from him. He also reveals that Anima treats humans like pawns and she created this game of animal knights and princesses just to stop him. After the fight is over between the golem and the knights, Animus teleports away, reminding them that their game won't last forever. After the battle, the group leaves the beach and heads back to the city, but they still continue on with their training. To help the other knights get used to battling against the golems, Hayu creates a two-eyed golem to let them practice. While Yuyuhi is fighting against it, he tries to recreate others' fighting styles using the references he got when he saw Samadare use her powers in different ways. He first tries to replicate Hangetsu's halberd style because he has already seen everything related to it. His efforts are successful and he manages to replicate it and even deals a great ton of damage to the two-eyed golem. After the training, Yuyuhi heads home where he meets Samadare, who has to come stay at his house because she can't go back home as her mom is there. Yuyuhi doesn't say anything as he can see that Samadare doesn't have a good relationship with her mother, so he allows her to stay at his house because this is win-win for him since they can even share the bed at night. This causes him to think of many weird things leading to a nosebleed. Somehow, Hisama is able to sense his thoughts across the walls and immediately arrives to rescue her sister from this big pervert. She reminds him that Samadare is still not of that age, so he should control his inner thoughts till she is fully an adult. That's why she takes him away and lets him stay at their house while Samadare stays at Yuyuhi's. This is where Hisama tells him about the awkward relationship between their families. She explains that she has daddy issues while Samadare has mommy issues. Their mother is a famous doctor who is often out of the country for research. This led to Samadare growing up without her mother's presence, especially in times when she was extremely sick. Yuyuhi feels bad for her, so he urges Hisama to talk to Samadare and fix their family issues. Even though he says this, he is also running away from his family issues as he has yet to talk to her grandfather for once after he wished him to be in full health. Hisama agrees and confronts Samadare about everything. This causes a huge drama, but in the end they manage to make up and Samadare is even able to talk to her mother after an extremely long time. Yuyuhi also gets the confidence to confront his relationship with his own grandfather, so after talking to him, he is able to fix that as well. While this is all going on, Animus senses that his twin sister Anima has finally woken up from her slumber. Soon Yuuhi meets her at the park when he is training, and she comes beside Samadare and doesn't say anything and just sits there and watches him train. Yuuhi feels awkward but doesn't really say anything. Later, she summons all of the knights to a special place where she places her hand on the horse and turns him into a unicorn. The normal horse knight suddenly transforms into the mythical unicorn knight. After transforming the horse, Anima leaves without saying much, and everyone else is also teleported back to their homes. Later, Yuuhi is at his home when he feels the presence of a golem and immediately heads out with the rest of the gang to defeat it. Unfortunately, Samadare isn't able to come this time since she feels extremely sick. She has Yuuhi promise that he won't die before allowing him to go. Soon, Yuuhi arrives at the location where the group faces off against an 8-eyed golem this time. The golem is extremely strong and the rest of the knights aren't able to do much against him. However, this is where the new unicorn knight comes into play and easily defeats the golem with a single attack. The group is even eager to get stronger and wonder who will get the mythic transformation next time. But that's a question for the future, so before that time comes they can only try different moves and try to create new special moves to have much better odds against the new and powerful golems. Teru creates a move where he turns a liquid solution into flames, while Hanako has a move where she turns water into ice. After training for a while, Yuuhi gets hungry, so he heads back home where he meets Anima. She asks him if he has any food because she's extremely hungry. Yuuhi gives her a cup of noodles, which she immediately finishes and asks for more. Yuuhi tells her that she should have gone to visit Teru and Yaoi since they are much better than him at cooking up food. Anima nods, and instead of heading to their houses, she instead summons them to his house where they are forced to cook food for her. Anima eats a lot because she spent a lot of energy making the horse into a unicorn. After finishing her food, she leaves as she teleports the two of them back to their houses. Later on, Yuuhi is sleeping when he wakes up from the presence of a golem once again. He immediately rushes to the location where he finds the other knights as well. However, this time the 8-eyed golem is even stronger and Suikairu isn't able to defeat it on his own. The group has to join hands in order to defeat it, and after suffering many small and big injuries, they finally manage to defeat it. In a flashback, Teru remembers how he and Hanako first met their animal spirits. Teru's mouse spirit often chooses those who are cowards, and Hanako's mantis often chooses those who are emotionless. Teru knows that Hanako is one of those sociopaths who don't have much empathy and remorse. That's why when the spirits asked them what their wishes were, Hanako immediately chose to unalive a serial killer just because she felt like it. Teru knows that Hanako doesn't care about anyone's life and death so much that she doesn't even care for her own. So that's why his wish was for Hanako that if she ever got into a fatal injury, the mouse spirit should heal her back into full health. A few days later, the group is busy in their own activities when they sense a terrifying presence of a golem. Soon they arrive at the scene, and this time Samadare is with them. But Animus also had a plan in his mind. He uses a bunch of one-eyed golems to split apart the group. This causes them to be unable to join their powers together to defeat the golems that easily. The strategy proves to work exceptionally well, and the group struggles to fight on their own. On the giant golem side, even Samadare is unable to defeat it, which makes the group extremely worried. So they decide to cause a distraction to the golem so that Samadare can deal the final blow. Teru volunteers to do it since his flaming attack is extremely potent. However, he underestimated the intelligence of the golem, who skips past him to attack Hanako, who is unaware. Teru has no choice but to get in between the attack to lessen the impact, but the golem's sharp tail pierces both of them together. But since Teru's wish was to have her healed if she ever takes a fatal injury, Hanako survives, but Teru succumbs to his injuries and dies. The golem and Animus retreat, but the group is extremely depressed. Hanako, who is incapable of showing her emotions, still can't process what happened and is unable to even cry. Yuuhi also suffers from extreme anguish as his desperation for power grows stronger. Just then, Anima appears and asks him to hold her hand if he desires the ultimate power. Yuuhi doesn't hesitate as she brings him to the white space once again, where he meets Yaoi, who also desires the power to defeat the golems and save the earth. Anima tells them that they both can fight and whoever wins will be granted the ultimate strength. Yuuhi fights hard, but ultimately, Yaoi is the winner in the end and get turned from the Snake Knight into the mythical Invincible Knight. Yuuhi is extremely depressed that he wasn't able to accomplish anything, so he starts to dig a hole for himself to be buried in. However, Mikazuki saves him and tells him to cheer up, as it's not like there aren't any other opportunities left for him to get stronger. He pulls him out and they are about to head back when suddenly Yuyuhi spots Suikairu in the front and is shocked because he was supposed to be dead. Mikazuki warns Yuyuhi that it's not Suikairu but a golem impersonating him. The golem laughs and turns into his original form, which is slime-shaped 11-eyed golem. The golem then turns into Samadare, but Mikazuki takes Yuyuhi and runs away. They inform the rest of the group to be careful and always check the other members holding field to see if they are real or not. Yuyuhi isn't worried about the rest of the members but Hanako, because she is the one who is going through trauma after Teru's death. And just like he thought, the golem approaches Hanako in Teru's form, but Hanako is able to recognize him. But she thanks him because he allowed her to make a decision for herself and sort out her feelings. The golem feels disappointed, so he leaves and runs away. Later, the group senses another golem's presence, and when they arrive, they find the 9-eyed golem. Yaoi feels that it's the perfect opportunity to showcase her strength, so she summons her invincible spirit and teams up with Suikairu's unicorn spirit to defeat the golem. On the other hand, Hanako asks Animus that she wants to fight a 9-eyed golem all by herself, so he grants her wish and summons one for her. There, Hanako takes all of her feelings and anger out on the golem and is finally able to overcome the emotional barrier. Seeing her cry makes everyone cry as well, because they didn't just lose a knight but a dear friend as well. One day, Yuyuhi gets an offer to work at the place where Suikairu used to work in the past. Mikazuki also works there, so Yuyuhi accepts the offer and they get rewarded pretty handsomely for that. After the job is done, Mikazuki offers Yuyuhi for a drink, so they head to his house where Samadare and Anima decide to barge in as well. There, Mikazuki reveals more about his past and relationship with his brother and how they grew up together. He always wanted to chase after his brother and surpass him, but unfortunately he never got the chance and his brother passed away. However, since Yuyuhi is his brother's successor, Mikazuki challenges him to a duel. Anima adds another condition that the winner will get a date with Samadare, which fires up both of them. The duel is set on Sunday, but before that the group is forced to fight against a horde of golems, but this time there are no casualties as Samadare easily takes care of them by herself. Soon, the date for the duel comes and the group enters the space created by Anima to fight. They both fight extremely well, but in the end Yuyuhi wins by a slightest bit of margin and secures the date with Samadare. However, he is disappointed when he finds that Anima is also there with her, so he can only cope and enjoy the company of these two girls, one human and one spirit. Mikazuki, on the other hand, is extremely happy even though he lost. The spirit inside him that was almost extinguished after his brother's death starts to burn once again as his desire to surpass Yuyuhi increases is reignited. During the time of rare peace, the group continues with their training sessions. While everyone is getting stronger to fight Animus and the golems, Teiyu the trader on the other hand heads daily to the mountains to give different books and comics to the shape-shifting golem who enjoys gaining more knowledge. But one day, when Teiyu is handing out the books to the shape-shifting golem, he feels the presence of the killing intent of the swarm of golems, so he immediately heads to the knights group to make sure they don't doubt him. Just like the previous time, Samadare is easily able to defeat the golems, but this time she required a bit of assistance from the other knights as the golems have also started to get stronger. After the fight, Teiyu meets the shape-shifting golem once again, who takes a human form to go and watch movies with Teiyu. But he doesn't get much excitement from it, so he asks Teiyu if he can take his appearance to live with his family and friends to experience the real human emotions. Teiyu allows him, but he warns him that his family won't even notice his presence as they don't care for him at all. In a flashback, when Teiyu got the Owl Knight title, he wished for the earth to be destroyed sooner, but just then Animus arrived and asked him to join hands with him as the previous Owl Knight did the same. The owl spirit tells him that the knights have never won against the mage, so it's better to join him. Back to the present, a few days passes by and the golems once again attack the knights, but this time they are even stronger and larger in numbers. Fortunately, Hayu had a backup plan as he uses one of his golems to attract all the other golems and then self-destruct to take out all of them in a single go. After the fight, Teiyu bumps into Mikazuki in the mountains, so he takes him back to Yuyuhi's house where Yuyuhi already has a company of Yukamachi and Subaru. They all eat and drink together and enjoy a great time. But Teiyu feels guilty for it as he is nothing but a traitor. Soon, the knights are faced off against the golem army once again, but this time, the shape-shifting golem also makes an appearance and separates all the knights using the chaos, so that it can have a one-on-one fight with Samadare alone. It takes on the shape of the magical girl from Samadare's favorite anime, and goes toe-to-toe with her even despite not being the strongest golem. Meanwhile, all the other knights try to survive all alone as they try their best to find other knights to group up together. Yuyuhi soon finds Mikazuki, who then starts running around to find the children and protect them. Meanwhile, the three children of the group, Yukamachi, Subaru and Teiyu are all together as they run away from the horde of the golems. Subaru gets injured and is unable to run anymore, so she begs them to leave her here and escape on their own. However, Teiyu, who has been a traitor all this time, is finally unable to bear the pain of stabbing his comrades in the back, so he reveals his power, which allows him to turn back time a little bit. Using that power, he is able to heal Subaru's injury, which causes him to feel even more guilty as he wonders if he could have saved Teru if he had known more about his abilities and didn't betray the knights. Soon, the three children are rescued by Mikazuki and Yuyuhi, who uses the pits dug by Yuyuhi to defeat all the golems and survive long enough to reunite with the rest. Hanako and Yaoi also manage to defeat the golems and successfully reunite with the group. Samedare soon regroups with Hayu and Suikairu, who helps her in fighting against the shape-shifting golem, but it's too strong for them and they aren't able to do much damage. But when Animus notices that the golem army failed, he takes away the shape-shifting golem and escapes. The group is extremely worried about the golem army as it keeps on respawning, so they come to a conclusion that the golem army, or the 10-eyed golem, must have one of its members hidden somewhere else, which allows them to revive each time. They are correct, since that golem is hiding in Teiyu's room, who finally decides to confront it, and defeats it after a big battle. Just after he defeats it, Anima appears and rewards him with the mythical status as his owl spirit turns into a legendary bird. She tells him that this was his reward for defeating one of the three celestial heads of Animus, and that she looks forward to his next achievement. After Anima leaves, Animus appears, but he tells him to not worry as he didn't forbid him from killing the golems, so he doesn't have to worry about any punishments. Teiyu is relaxed and can finally rest peacefully for the first time in his life. While Teiyu is sleeping peacefully, Hayu, on the other hand, is extremely frustrated because he can't seem to get an idea for a new golem. So in desperation, he can only turn towards his comrades, who try to give him an idea of where to go next. Hayu is still having a hard time as his determination isn't enough, but this changes when he stumbles into Animus, who invites him once again, but Hayu rejects him. Animus is disappointed as he reminds him that he will never be able to achieve better golems than him because he is a god while Hayu is just a mortal. Hayu proudly declares that he will become a mortal that slayed a god. Later at night, Hayu finally manages to bring his new golem into reality, but unfortunately, it's still too weak to fight against an opponent like the shape-shifting golem. Hayu isn't disappointed as he continues to research and find a better solution by himself. Meanwhile, Yuyuhi receives a phone call that his grandfather was hit by Recap-Kun and died. Yuyuhi attends the funeral, where he finally heads into his old room and throws away the chain that his grandfather used to bind him with. With his grandfather dead, Yuyuhi is finally able to get rid of that hatred. Just when he was about to head back home, he is approached by his sister, who hands him a bunch of letters that his grandfather wrote to him but never sent it. While reading the letters, he meets his grandfather's spirit, who welcomes him home and leaves. Yuyuhi asks Anima if what he saw was real. Anima answers that it depends on him if he wants to believe it or not. She summons him to the gate in the dream world, which can now be opened since the three mystical knights have been created. In front of Yuyuhi are the stairs, which he climbs and finds Henjetsu, who left his legacy to him. Henjetsu challenges him to a fight, and only after Yuyuhi defeats him that he allows him to go ahead. Yuyuhi controls his urge to cry because this is the last time he will ever see Henjetsu, but he still has more stairs to climb. So he keeps on walking upward till he bumps into Inichika, who just shakes hands with him and let his go ahead. After arriving ahead, he meets Anima, who gives him a kiss on the cheek as a reward, which upsets Samedare, but she lets it slide just for today. After getting past all of them, he finally arrives at the top, where he gets a live view of the biscuit hammer for the first time. Later, the knights are up against the shape-shifting golem once again, who keeps on getting stronger and stronger after each fight. This time, he is extremely disappointed because the group was unable to give him any thrill, especially Hayu, whose golems were extremely lackluster. He gives them 10 days of time and tells them that if they doesn't amuse him in the fight, he will unalive all those people who are precious to them. With such a short deadline, the group starts to train like crazy. Hayu starts thinking of a way to escape the limitations of his imagination, while Yukamachi and Subaru join hands with Mikazuki to create a special move that involves the holding fields of multiple people. While everyone is practicing, Hanako and Yaoi are having tea and snacks at Yaoi's house, where Hanako tells Yaoi that if she wants to pursue Yuyuhi, then she should start by feeding him good food. The route to any man's heart starts from his stomach, so Yaoi uses the training as a cover to invite Yuyuhi over to her house, and after they are finished training, Yaoi finally confronts him about her feelings and tells him that she knows that he and Samedare wants to destroy the earth after destroying the biscuit hammer, but she promises him that if she can stop them, he must go out with her. Yuyuhi tells her that he will consider if things come to that point. Meanwhile, Teiyu meets the shape-shifting golem who asks him what is the difference between humans and golems. Teiyu answers that humans are just animals who evolved from the apes and golems are the forces created by Animus. However, this isn't the answer that the shape-shifting golem desires because he knows that their existence has another meaning. Soon the 10 days deadline passes by and the group heads out to fight the shape-shifting golem. This time, the group is able to hold their own against him, but in the end, the shape-shifting golem is still far too strong. This is where Hayu steps in and tells him that the essence of golems relies in the freedom of expression. He tells the shape-shifting golem that golems are not just some evil forces, but they are art pieces of Animus. The shape-shifting golem finally understands who they are and is able to die peacefully at the hands of the golems that Hayu creates using his own artistic freedom. After the shape-shifting golem is defeated, Anima arrives and tells everyone that they don't need to worry about the biscuit hammer as she has created a counter-weapon against it called Blue's Drive Monster. In a flashback, many years into the future when Anima and Animus were both children, Animus accidentally destroys a satellite which causes them to both get sucked into space where they are rescued by humans who keep them in a facility till they get better. Anima was always a kind-hearted kid who didn't like the psychic powers that she had, but Animus was complete opposite as he wanted to use his psychic powers to become a god. But Anima always tried to control his intrusive thoughts by constantly reminding him that they are both humans. But things change when their powers are discovered by a doctor who wants to adopt them and turn them into gods. The doctor feeds the intrusive thoughts of Animus, who always wanted to become a god, so he finally breaks free and decides that from now on, he will do whatever he wants. The first thing he does after getting freed is to destroy Earth using a giant biscuit hammer, but the impact causes the space-time balance to break, which leads to them traveling back into time. Animus want to keep doing the same thing till they eventually reach the start of the universe, but Anima stops him and restricts him by placing the rules of the game on him. This is where the original game between them knights and the golem started, and despite centuries passing by, the game has yet to conclude. For this round, Anima chose Samadare, who was a sick child. She asked her if she wanted anything, but Samadare, who has never gotten out of the hospital, doesn't really have any wish as she is just fine by being who she is. But later, when she is running outside, she meets Yuyuhi and instantly falls for him. Yuyuhi thinks that she might have run away from home, tries to bring her to the police station, but this causes Samadare to become worried that she might be arrested, so she runs away. Yuyuhi chases after her, and that's how he meets Anima for the first time. She then takes Samadare away and flies straight back to the hospital. Yuyuhi is confused and tries to convince himself that he must have seen a ghost. Meanwhile, Samadare, who didn't have any interest in life, suddenly becomes obsessed with Yuyuhi and also wishes to own the Earth. Anima promises to grant her wish, and that's how their bond is formed. Back to the present, the day for the final battle is finally here as Animus brings the group to their final battlefield where he summons his last and 12th golem. The last golem is extremely big and strong, but the group has trained to combine their holding fields into one giant combination attack which allows them to defeat the golem. After the golem is defeated, Animus becomes crazy as he slams down his biscuit hammer to destroy the Earth. However, just then Anima teleports Yuyuhi and Samadare into the Blue's Drive Monster. There she explains that only Yuyuhi can operate the Blue's Drive Monster as his connection with both of them is the deepest. So she asks Yuyuhi to trust himself and walk forward and save the Earth from getting destroyed. Yuyuhi starts walking into the void as his will creates the path for him. While he is running towards the control center, he meets his past and future selves who give him the power to walk even faster. Soon, Yuyuhi arrives at the control center where he uses his power to operate the Blue's Drive Monster, but it's not enough to stop the biscuit hammer. This is where Samadare comes into play, who uses her own powers to override the control of Anima and destroys the biscuit hammer in one punch. Animus goes crazy after seeing this and tells everyone that this is their last chance to beat him, as 6 months later he will return with even more power. Animus fears that Samadare might be able to defeat him, so he traps her in a barrier while he engages with the rest of the knights. They fight a long battle in which a couple of knights almost die, but they keep on fighting as they discover more and more about their powers. Animus becomes extremely angry, which causes him to become the embodiment of destruction. He starts attacking the group like crazy, but they still manage to hold their own against him till Samadare is able to break free from the barrier and arrives back on Earth. Anima looks at her brother, who now looks like a homeless man. She tells him that he was never a god and that he shouldn't have tried to become one. Animus asks her if she will kill him today. Anima answers that she has to do it, otherwise he won't ever stop, saying that she throws a spear straight into Animus' chest, which causes him to bleed for the first time. Seeing the blood on his hands makes Animus realize that maybe Anima was right and that he was never a god. After Animus is dead, Samadair reveals to everyone that she will now destroy the earth. Everyone is shocked, but Animus confirms, and so does Yayoi. The knights try to stop Samadair, but Yuyuhi stops them from interfering as he tells them that only he has the right to stop Samadair since she is the person he loves. Samadair always knew that Yuyuhi would stop her if she tried to destroy the earth, so she is ready to fight him. Yuyuhi is also ready to fight her as he puts all of his strength into stopping her. The fight goes on for a very long time as both sides have a wide variety of attacks. In the end, Yuyuhi is unable to do anything despite unlocking his mythical knight status, which makes him the Black Dragon Knight. Samadair feels a bit disappointed that he wasn't able to stop her, but since she promised that she will destroy this planet, she has no choice but to do it. However, the rest of the knights do not understand why she will do this, so Anima explains that Samadair was a sick child with a terminal illness which has no cure. She was supposed to die as a child, but Anima saved her by giving her the powers of the princess. So now that the war is over, her powers will disappear, which means that Samadair will also not be able to live for any longer. That's why she wanted to destroy the planet, so that she would not die alone. The knights are moved by her story and decide to help Yuyuhi to stop her as they use the power of the friendship to combine their powers and give one last push to Yuyuhi, who reaches the fleeting Samadair and grabs her by her hands. Samadair is extremely happy as she tells him that she loves him more than this planet, so she doesn't really want it anymore. Now that the battle is finally over and Samadair doesn't want to destroy this planet, Anima leaves and takes everyone's powers with her. The group shares a tearful farewell together with their spirit companions as they all disappear one by one. 10 years into the future, Yuyuhi becomes a detective and joins an agency created by Suikairu, who used to be a detective in the past. Subaru and Mikazuki start dating each other after sharing their bond as comrades 10 years ago. Hanako, on the other hand, opens her own restaurant to fulfill Teru's dream to be a chef. Teiyu, who was once a trader, is now a college student studying to become a great person in the future, unlike his parents. Yayoi, after being rejected by Yuyuhi, starts dating Hayu, and they eventually marry a few years later. Hayu becomes a college professor and Yayoi stays as the housewife. Yukamachi also becomes a middle school teacher and starts dating Teiyu, who once saved her in the past. As for the main character, Samadair fought her illness for 8 years before she finally got her last operation, which was performed by her own mother. The anime ends with Yuyuhi and Samadair holding hands, who now can live in peace since there is no threat to this world anymore. That's all for today. If you enjoyed our video, give us a like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing content.